Hey, what's up guys? Glacier Hades here, bringing you some more Kingdom Hearts 3 info. Today I'm bringing you the secret reports that you unlock from completing each of the battle gates. Each one of these is unique and compared to the other Kingdom Hearts because the other Kingdom Hearts secret reports always explain what's happening in the current game. These ones explain what has happened in the past, what is going on in the backgrounds, which is very unique and adds some depth to the story and a reason to actually get these. As such, I'm going to actually read these to you guys if you have not yet unlocked them. Obviously, these do contain spoilers, so if you do not want to watch that, I would look away at this point. Well, let's get started. Am I alive? Woke in a cell, alone until the researchers came, their tests and their prodding to uncover my identity. I had no answer to offer them. My 4 friends and a key. That is the sum total of my memory. I could not even recall my name. I was simply called X there. My only solace was the time I spent talking with 2 boys who would visit from time to time. One day, a man came to take me from the prison. I could not see him for the darkness, save that he wore an eye patch. Even now, years on, I feel no closer to understanding who or what I am. May my heart be my guiding key. Okay, to put this in some context, basically, this is the mystery girl that Lee and Isa have been looking for throughout the entire game. They did not know why she disappeared, and no one did, it seemed, except for a certain individual with an eye patch, which obviously, at this point, we know is Xigbar, aka Lucia, and it would make sense as to why he would take this mystery girl. If she's somebody that was back from the time of fairy tales, it could be potentially that she's going to ruin whatever plans the Master of Masters had for the timeline. So it's entirely possible this could be the same mystery star that is in the final world with Sora that he talks to if you talk to one of the Palpu fruit. The reason I suggest this is it is entirely possible that Xigbar or Lucia actually took this person away. I'm not sure who it is, that's still up for debate, but it's possible he took them away, and eventually they regained some of their memory and recognized him as an ally, and because he could not risk anybody finding out who he was and what his goal was, and what he had done, he struck them down, and that's the reason their heart is now in the final world. Of course, this is all theory, and be sure to leave your guys' comments down below, just what you think this all means. But anyways, let's go on to the second one. Some days have passed since I set off on my journey to prepare for the Mark of Mastery examination. Ericus asked for leave to undertake the same pilgrimage, but apparently I am to be the first to tour the world written of in the old fairy tales. Still, a few short years ago, I'd known only my own world, a speck of land surrounded by sea, but how I dreamed of, yearned for the world beyond, and, granted guidance from the future, I left that nest behind. As I treaded the path to my master's side, I came in contact with darkness in many forms. I knew even then, as by instinct, terrifying as its power was, it could be harnessed, mastered. Ericus is a blue blood, descended from the very first masters in the Age of Fairy Tales. I did not come this far to indulge in adulation. I will be his peer, his equal, and to do that I must learn to wield the power born from both darkness and light in proper balance. Again, obviously this is Xehanort because it actually says it right at the bottom, but this adds a unique detail to both Master Xehanort and Ericus. So basically at this point you can kind of get that Xehanort realized he's talking to himself from the future. And what I mean by that is he even says right here, and granting guidance from the future, I left that nest behind. So it's almost like he already figured out that the version of himself that visits him is from the future, which is starting to hint that he needs to follow his heart's destined path. But what interests me more is Ericus is a blue blood, descended from the very first masters in the Age of Fairy Tales. The reason being is because this could have 2 very vastly different incomes depending on which person he descended from. If it's one of the original foretellers, then it's whatever. It really doesn't matter that much, because at that point, this could mean that this is all going to according to the Master of Masters plan. Very well could. But if it's one of the dandelions that survived after the Keyblade War, and it was one of those descendants, then potentially what this could mean is it was the person that took one of the original 5 Union members' spot, who was originally not supposed to be there. So if this person basically birthed the next generation of Keyblade wielders, then this could definitely pry into the Master of Masters' grand plan, which is very cool and a subtle hint. But again, this is all just speculation. Let me know what you guys think as well. Subject was found in the central square shortly after dawn. Female, approximately 15 years old. After 7 days' observation, she spoke her first words, but could not provide a name. Subject exhibits signs of profound amnesia. Displays concern about which world this is. The words suggest that she departed her home world with others, though she cannot recall the names of her erstwhile companions. All efforts to explore those memories have met with a rejection response. After his initial experience on me, Ansem the Wise ceased his research into the heart, his hand stayed by some fear I cannot fathom. Yet this new subject is like me, devoid of memories. She is the perfect sample of which to continue my master's work. She too could benefit from it. By traversing the heart, we have a direct path into memory. I myself have begun to reclaim my lost past thanks to these very experiments. Who is she? Whence has she come? These are questions no scientist could ignore. In the words she muttered, "May your heart be your guiding key." So Xehanort's experimenting on this person they found in the report 1. She obviously is around Kyrie's age, but obviously it wouldn't be Kyrie because it says she came back from an age where it seemed of fairy tales. So, again, it is possible that this is either A, the foretellers, but that's less likely, or B, one of the original Dandelion members, because she said she came here with other companions, and she specifically says 4. Well, after the Keyblade War, those who basically became the Union leaders would definitely probably have a strong connection because they just survived an apocalypse. So it wouldn't be that much of a stretch to say they formed a kind of kinship. The reason this is less likely with the foretellers is they did have a lot of infighting, but technically there are 4 other friends to like Ava and all them. The odd man being out Lushu, as we've seen, he did not get along with everyone very well. Subject's memories have not returned, and our conversation remained less than lucid. What fragments being gleaned evoke a bygone world, like one out of fairy tales. As improbable as it seems, the question may not be where she has come from, but when. She truly has crossed through time. The prospect of probing her heart is all the more compelling. My pilot studies used a handful of subjects, but none possessed the fortitude to endure them. Ultimately, all suffered mental collapse. I knew it would be a heavy blow to lose a subject as unique as she, but upon discovering the test I've been conducting, my master demanded that I cease my work immediately and destroy what research I have compiled. Worse still, he ordered the release of my remaining subjects. She is gone. Where is Subject X now? Has wise Master Ansem hidden her away? Whatever the case, I will not be deterred. I will take her place as the first subject in the grand experiment to come. So this also tells that Xehanort had no idea that she disappeared and it wasn't Ansem that had any hand in it. He has no idea that Xigbar, aka Lushu, was the one that actually whisked her away. This also shows where all of a sudden Xehanort, why he felt so desperately to use himself as an experiment, which basically, to continue on this, it allows him to regain more of his memories but continue to plunge himself into darkness. Interesting. Not the most important news, but still interesting to think about. That castle was a wonderland to us children. Within its walls, Ansem the Wise conducted his research, and the fruits it bore allowed everyone inside to live in peace and happiness. That alone was enough to stoke our interest, though not all of the rooms that escaped its walls were so benevolent. By night, the muffled sounds of human wails emerged. There was talk of dangerous human experimentation, and I couldn't help but hatch a plot to steal inside and sate our curiosity. The two who stood guard at the gates were researchers themselves, though you wouldn't think to see them, massive and barrel-chested as they were. Slipping past that duo was only the first huddle. It proved one not easily cleared. We were found and tossed out on our ears time and again. On the day we finally secured our entry, we descended the wrong spiral stair at the heart of the castle to find a dark space below it, lined with cages. It wasn't light enough to see if they were inhabited, and we were in no position to call out to any occupants within. Yet we could feel it, a definite presence, there in the black. Terror washed over us, and we immediately regretted coming. Just as we turned to flee, we heard the faintest of voices. The urge to run was nigh overpowering. Someone or something beckoned us on. There, framed by a tenuous sliver of light, we found her. Okay, so this actually is the first, gleaming instance. We've always thought something was in those cages, but according to Lee and Isa, it is, the most terror, darkness they've ever felt. They didn't actually see it, which is kind of disappointing. But I still feel like these are other subjects that obviously, as Xehanort so adequately put, mentally collapsed. But I would love to find out eventually who they are or what they are. So I'm hoping that eventually gets cleared up in Kingdom Hearts 4, because that's just an interesting idea to me, to come back to this, finally. It was too dim to make out her features. We spoke to her in hushed whispers. Who was she? Why was she in prison here? She had no answers for us, had no memories at all. She was an enigma, but I knew I wanted to help her. So we continued our infiltrations. Most of them stopped short of the castle gates. When we did manage our way inside, we spoke with her. That was all the comfort two children like us could afford. But Lee had other ideas. He was determined to free her. We slipped into the castle that day, knowing only that we wanted with all our hearts to save her. But we did not find her inside on that day, or the next, or any of our subsequent visits. Has she been moved? Had we simply imagined her? Lee and I knew there was only one way to be certain, so we stand before the castle gates today, not as trespassing children, but in order to become Ansem the Wise's newest apprentices. So this actually completely explains why, not just why they became researchers, but as to what their curiosity of the entire thing was. The fact that they'd heard these human wails, the fact that they'd heard rumors that there's not so benevolent research going on, which proves that during this time was when Ansem was doing research and then finally told Xehanort to stop his research because it was getting too dark. Crap was going sideways. Makes complete sense. We always knew that Lee and Lee and Isa wanted to be involved, but it never really was clear as to what their motives were. Essentially, it was just to try to look for her more and find out whatever happened to her. It's actually really sad to see this report and find out even after all these years, they still have not found a hide or hair of her. Following my erasure and my recompletion as a human, I did not awaken right away. Perhaps the damage was exceptionally grave. Even after waking, I remained in bed, pondering my next course of action. In my work on the replica program for the organization, I produced some 20 vessels. Most of their results were failures, not one of them granted a number. The first success to emerge from that early lot was the Riku replica. Subsequently, Shion, number 1, was essentially indistinguishable from a natural human, though she became unstable due to the influence of others. Using those two as my foundation, I worked to construct a number of nigh-perfect replicas. Just as they neared completion, my efforts were cut short. I suspect Xehanort aims to use both the initial lot as well as the unused replicas from my later work. I rose today and decided to walk out to the square, my first outing in some time. Yet my stroll was interrupted when a surprising visitor appeared with an unexpected offer. Though younger than me, he'd risen to become Xemnas' right hand. I accepted his terms and became a nobody wanting some more. Easier to gain access to the old replica program that way. Whatever it takes to atone. So, this actually helps explain why Evan, aka Vexen, was not so present in Kingdom Hearts 2. Because apparently he was bedridden. I know that's kind of a lazy way of writing it in, but I mean, it would kind of make sense. He did not die a very easy death. He literally burns to death, so take that as you see it. But otherwise, yeah, it just kind of explains how all... So the game doesn't really do a good job of explaining this, but the way all of the past versions of Xehanort actually get to the future is they do the same thing that happens in Dream Drop Distance. It's explained in that if one casts their body away, their heart can travel through time. So what he does is he has all past versions of himself travel through time by giving up their body and having their heart come to the future. Then, using these replicas, these basically dolls, those hearts go into the bodies, and basically at that point that's how the hearts gain a body to use access to, which is why when most of the members die, they actually fade away, but they're not dying. Their hearts are generally going back to their time. It's confusing, but that's Kingdom Hearts logic. Xehanort seeks to gather 12 vessels, which, together with his true actual self, he considers the real Organization 13. Now that he has the number he needs, Dimnix and I are being treated as reserves. Several others who served Xemnas in the older organization have followed the same course as mine, electing to abandon their newly restored humanity and rejoin the real organization as nobodies. But not Xemnas. Xemnas cannot exist in the present because there is already a Xehanort here, the old man in charge. The old man's humanity prevents his heartless and nobody, others vanquished in the past, and his younger self from being denizens of this time. To circumvent this, Xehanort is using the prototype of replicas I had created in the past as containers, plucking his other 12 selves' hearts from the time they existed. Xehanort ordered me to refine the prototypes to make them closer still to the real thing. Perfecting my creations so they may house true flesh and blood humans suits my own purposes as well. All that remains for my atonement is to devise a way to pass on as many of the vessels I can to those who truly deserve them. Again, shows that Xehanort was using these for his own ends and why Vexen was basically going along with it, because he understood that he did terrible things, and that basically, even though he was putting up this facade of being this evil guy and this mad scientist, he was actually just trying to perfect his work to help those that actually he had wronged in the past, e.g. Naminé, Roxas, a few others. So, cool. Adds more story to Vexen and makes him more of a fleshed out character. I have pored over the data my master entrusted to Riku. Here I offer my preliminary conclusions. Within Sora's heart are 3 compartmentalized boxes, each containing the heart of another. One box holds Roxas. Another holds a second heart that has been with Sora nearly as long. The third has held its heart for much longer. These hearts have melded with Sora's and no longer have voices of their own. Any attempt to mechanically extract them could prove as dire for Sora as what caused him to become a Heartless in the first place. First, a vessel for each heart must be readied. Then, a spark of some sort is required to induce its waking. Obviously, the ideal solution is to restore each heart to its own body, but, whatever the case for the 2 unknown individuals, Roxas possesses no such thing. The same is true for Naminé, who we believe resides in Kairi's heart. Still, if alternate bodies can be secured for them, all their hearts require to be awakened is that spark. People they cared for and who cared for them, who can show them the way home. Complete and perfect digitalization of the heart is impossible. We can only hope to partially reconstruct it. Thus, I see no way forward but to extract the hearts we so desperately need directly from within Sora. Fortunately, the data stored in Twilight Town contains a near-perfect record of the memories of those who live there. And for Roxas and Nomine especially, this is crucial. So basically this is just explaining that even though they were hoping to use the digital versions of Roxas and Nomine to basically make these hearts, he found out it was actually not possible and that they actually need their originals. Now, when I first read this, I was assuming that the 3 hearts were Roxas, Ventus, and then somebody else. But the somebody else I actually think is closer to is actually Shion. As it says, one box holds Roxas, another holds a second heart that has been with Sora nearly as long. So Roxas and Shion both went back to Sora relatively within the same time. So that makes sense for that, and then the third one would obviously be Ventus, because he's been with him for like 11 years at that point. So that doesn't really leave anybody else for it to be, and the story really doesn't hint at anybody else. It would be strange for them to try to make that leap. But let me know what you guys think on that, because that's just my own theory. As for how to contain their hearts, the only conceivable option is the replicas. We transfer in the digital memories from the Twilight Town archive. The replicas should be able to reconstruct each individual's human appearance with near-perfect results. Then, their hearts would need only the right spark to wake them, so they may find their way out of Sora and Kairi and into those newly made bodies. The replica program was truly revolutionary, but it was incomplete at the time of the old organization's dissolution. Without Evan, how are we to further the research? We need at least 3 replicas, one for Roxas, one for Nomine, and one for the unknown stowaway within Sora's heart. These are difficult quandaries, but as I worked through my master's data, I found myself remembering the taste of ice cream. When I was a boy, he would bring me some when we took our walks together. There will be time to regret my betrayal later. For now, my focus must be restoring on Roxas and Nomine and proving my master had good intentions. But yeah, that's actually kind of cool that it explains why these, like, obviously the heart itself could make the person look any different because that heart didn't necessarily have its own memories, but by using the digital Twilight Town to imbue the memories that had happened, it kind of gives them the guidance to make their heart recomplete them as they would be, which is actually kind of neat. Ties in both the digital datascape, whatever you want to call it, of Twilight Town, and the fact that they can't just simply recreate the entire person off Twilight Town, because then technically they could recreate like 50 Soras if they wanted to. So yeah, really neat idea, and quite frankly a way to cover up the fact that there could have been a loophole there. I've seen it through. The Keyblade War unfolded exactly as written on the lost page. Now the Keyblade the Master entrusted to me must be bequeathed to another. 5 Union leaders have been chosen from the surviving dandelions. I will pass the Keyblade to one of them and then continue watching the future unfold. Yet it seems that someone has pulled the old switcheroo. One of the 5 is an imposter, someone the Master did not shoot. Represent a virus in the program he so carefully wrote. The virus has already begun a strange undertaking. Reckless plot to allow the 5 to escape into another world line. Surely such a thing can't be possible. We're talking about the same trick that allowed the dandelions to transfer to other world lines after the Keyblade War. These children are no masters. They have the means. Unless, of course, a certain lady of magic summoned here from the future knows more than I do. The whole Union Leader thing was supposed to be by the books. Are these new events just another phase in the Master's planned plan? So, obviously this is talking about the fact that Laurium eventually replaced another member of the Dandelions, one of the 5 heads of the Dandelion unions. So, this wasn't, like, planned. Like, the Master originally did not know this was going to happen. So, 1, this is where my theory that the original descendants, if they are from this bloodline, of the Keyblade wielders that goes down to Ericus, then this could potentially lead to a deterioration or basically, as Xigbar so adequately puts it, a virus to the program that the master wrote. In which case, this could be the one, like, saving grace for this entire, like, series. Because otherwise, it was all supposed to go away the master wants, in which case, that could be bad, because from what we've already seen, everything that he's wanted to happen has always led to destruction. So, this could be the one saving factor in Laurium's, you know, bloodlust to find his sister and help her and basically find out who did this to her. Could be the saving factor that saves everyone in this Kingdom Hearts universe. Not to mention they're also talking about another world line. This could be a few different things. This could be the Datascape. This could be the dream world that we see in Kingdom Hearts Key, the second version, where basically we find out that they were all in sleeping worlds and that what had happened was originally not what happened in the real world. It's confusing. Like, again, the mobile games add so much lore and kind of convolute the story more, but that's why we love it. Even on a world line with no Keyblade War, peace is but a dream. In the absence of us and our master, a darkness arrived. One that shall surely lead the world to yet another demise. Amid the chaos, I bequeath my Keyblade to one of the Union leaders, just as the master instructed. I watched as the 5 were sent to another world line at no small cost, ensuring the line of Keyblade wielders will live on. And now, Keybladeless, I must depart this land to fulfill my final task. This means casting my own body aside and surging my heart in vessel after vessel, many as it takes. But I will continue gazing upon each passing era, one unto the next. In time, be it years or decades, centuries or millennia, I will meet the 5 once more. Somewhere in this circular history of bequeathings, a chosen one will appear and reenact the Keyblade War. When the scapegoat arrives, takes my Keyblade in hand, that will be the time to take the stage and finish my role. The Lost Masters will awaken. So, at this time, this is the first time that Luxu, aka Xigbar, transfers his heart into another. So, this is when he starts the corruption of what the Master was planning. Basically, he wants the Keyblade wielders to continue to live on. He wants that darkness, that infighting to eventually reoccur again. So this is interesting because apparently the Keyblade wielders were originally in a world line. If you read the previous one, they went to a world line where they didn't have a Keyblade War. So instead, what Luxu says is, okay, I'm going to send you yet another one. So it seems like they've jumped through a couple of hoops, which actually fits what Luxu says in Dream Drop Distance. And then, once he finally does do all this, that's when he first transfers his heart, which would allow him also to travel world lines and time. It's interesting, though, that he keeps going body to body, instead of transferring all through time, going right to when the person, aka Xehanort, the darkness that appears. Instead, he chooses to go body to body. It's just one of those reasons it's kind of strange to me, and there's got to be another reason to Luxu's role besides the fact that he wanted to stay close and watch on his Keyblade. Because if that was simply the case, he could still technically drop in, watch what's going on, then keep going through time. But then, you know, it wouldn't be as interesting to find out that, you know, this guy's been through different lives all through history. So, you know, just a food for thought. It seems this body, this name will be my last. The lives I have lived over the ages could fill volumes, but for now I must focus on what matters most. The Keyblade has been successfully passed down generation to generation, and it seems a Keyblade master devoted to the darkness may finally arise. Until now, I have watched over the course of events from a distance. Perhaps the time has come to intervene. I need only play the role of a fool, desirous of the Keyblade's power. I will don the mask of his ally in order to keep watch over my Keyblade from close by. The Gazing Eye, a Keyblade forged from the eye of the Master of Masters. He passed it to me, as I have to others, and through it, he can see the future. All that will ever come to pass. Spanning the ages, in body after body, life after life, my task has been to keep vigil over the eye as it passes from me. It has been a long time, longer than I can express. But now, at last, the Keyblade War has begun, and Kingdom Hearts will open. A true and complete Kingdom Hearts, born of the clash between darkness and light. I will soon be reunited with my old companions, and in that moment, my long vigil will reach its end. He will return. I leave with that, guys. Please leave me your comments, any of your guys' theories and suggestions on what I should do for my next video. I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving. My channel has been growing significantly with all you guys showing up for this Kingdom Hearts love. I appreciate it. You guys all have an amazing day. Stay BOUSE.